Welcome to Reddit Stories. I'm Mr. Redder. In today's story, an entitled Karen refuses to take a shower, and her boyfriend is getting sick of it. Let's dive in. My girlfriend refused to shower for weeks. I finally had enough. Backstory. At first she was great, funny, smart, and we had a lot in common. We moved in together after about a year of dating, and at first everything seemed fine. Then I started noticing little things, like she never really did laundry unless I asked her to. Dishes would pile up, and she would just leave them there until I got sick of it and cleaned them myself. I didn't think too much of it at first because, hey, everyone has different levels of cleanliness, right? But then I realized something much worse. She didn't shower, like ever. I don't mean she skipped a day here or there. I mean she would go weeks without taking a shower. At first, I thought maybe she was just skipping every now and then, but then I started keeping track in my head. A full day went by, then two. I started to wonder if I was losing my mind. She never looked dirty, but she definitely started to smell bad. I tried to bring it up casually like, hey, I'm hopping in the shower. You want to go after me? She always had some excuse. Oh, I showered earlier. I'm not that dirty. I don't have time. The worst part? She worked from home, so she wasn't even leaving the apartment much. There were no gym workouts, no commutes, nothing that required her to get ready for the day. Just her sitting on the couch in her pajamas, marinating in her own filth. I started paying attention to other things too. Her hair was getting greasy, her clothes smelled musty. Even the couch cushions started to hold on to this weird, stale scent. I finally confronted her about it directly. I just straight up asked, "When's the last time you showered?" She got defensive immediately. Why does it matter? I don't smell that bad. I told her, it's not just about the smell, it's hygiene, it's basic self-care. She rolled her eyes and said, I don't need to shower every day. That's just something corporations made up to sell more soap. I was floored. I tried to explain that it wasn't about buying soap. It was about being clean, about not making the apartment smell bad, and about respect for people around you. She did not want to hear it. She acted like I was crazy for caring so much. At one point, I even set up a little experiment. I left a bottle of body wash and shampoo right in the shower with a fresh towel, hoping she'd take the hint. Nope, she just kept avoiding it. I even heard her running the water a few times, but I noticed later that the towels were still bone dry. She was pretending to take showers. I wish I could say that that was the end of it, but no, things got worse. She started getting defensive anytime I mentioned cleaning. She stopped brushing her hair, she stopped washing her face. She even started making fun of me for wasting time on showers, like I'd step out of the bathroom and she'd go, "Oh wow, you smell so clean. Hope the soap companies are happy with all the money you just gave them." I tried to talk to her about how this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about me too. It was about how living with someone who refused to shower was disgusting and inconsiderate. She didn't see it that way. She actually told me that I was shallow for caring. That's when we had our biggest fight. I told her that living with someone meant respecting their space, and part of that was not making the whole apartment smell like a locker room. She told me I was overreacting. I told her I couldn't keep living like this. She stormed off to the bedroom, and I spent the night on the couch, surrounded by the lingering smell of unwashed sweat. The next morning, I woke up, and I knew I was done. I broke up with her. She cried, called me heartless, told me I was making a huge mistake over something so stupid. But it wasn't stupid to me. It was about basic respect, about feeling comfortable in my own home. I felt bad at first, I really did. But after a few weeks, I started feeling like myself again. I deep cleaned the apartment, washed every cushion and blanket, and threw out anything that still smelled off. Now, life is so much better. I started going to the gym more. I made new friends. I even started dating again. And let me tell you, finding someone who showers regularly is underrated. I feel like I can finally breathe again, literally and figuratively. So yeah, if you're ever in a relationship with someone who refuses to do the absolute bare minimum for hygiene, don't feel bad for leaving. You deserve to live in a place that doesn't smell like old gym socks. Let's get a poll going. How often do you take showers? Once a day? Twice a day? Once a week? We'd really love to know. Once a month for the win. Stop giving those water companies all your money. My elderly neighbor left everything to me in her will. Now her estranged daughter wants it all. I recently came into an inheritance when my neighbor and close friend, Valerie, passed away. It was completely unexpected, and honestly, it's been a whirlwind of emotions. I met Valerie back in 2018 when I first moved into my condo. She was my next-door neighbor, and since we lived on the top floor, our balconies were practically connected. I remember the first time we talked. She was outside tending to her plants, humming to herself, and I had just moved in with a single, half-dead succulent. She took one look at my struggling plant, shook her head, and said, "You're gonna need my help, sweetheart." And that was that. Every Saturday morning, we'd meet out on our balconies, coffee in hand, taking care of our plants and chatting about life. Over time, I learned that Valerie had been a widow since she was 55. She had married young and spent most of her adult life as a wife and homemaker. It wasn't until after her husband passed that she felt like she was finally learning who she truly was. She picked up new hobbies, traveled a little, and became a completely independent woman. I always thought Valerie was alone in the world. She never talked about family, never had visitors, and never mentioned having kids. I just assumed it was always just her. Then, one day, out of nowhere, she told me about her daughter, Sam. They had been estranged since early 2000s. Valerie shared the whole painful story. When Sam became an adult, she started making lifestyle choices that her father, Gary, did not approve of. That led to a major falling out. He told Sam she was no longer his daughter and kicked her out on the spot, saying she was never welcome back. And Valerie just stood there, frozen. She said it was the biggest regret of her life. She didn't scream, she didn't fight, she didn't tell Gary to stop. She just let it happen. Years passed and the guilt only got heavier. Valerie wanted to reach out but didn't know how, and the longer she waited, the harder it became. That conversation stuck with me. After she told me, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I decided to do some digging and I found Sam on Facebook. She looked happy. She had built a whole life for herself. Seeing that gave me the push to encourage Valerie to reach out. We sat down together and drafted a message. Valerie poured her heart into it, apologizing for everything. She told Sam how much her perspectives had changed over the years and how she had spent so long regretting that moment. She asked if they could try to reconnect, even if just a little. She sent the message. Sam saw it, but never responded. About a month ago, I came home from work and I saw Valerie sitting on her balcony like usual, but something felt off. I walked over to check on her and I realized she was gone. She had passed from an embolism. Just like that, she was gone. I was devastated. I sent Sam a link to her mother's obituary in the memorial page. I wasn't sure if she'd come to the funeral, but I thought she at least deserved to know. I didn't see her there. There was a lawyer handling all of Valerie's affairs, so I assumed that was the end of it. I would grieve my friend and eventually have a new neighbor. Then I got a call. Valerie had left everything to me. The condo, her savings, her belongings, everything. I was completely stunned. I never expected this. I didn't help her for money. I wasn't angling for anything. She was my friend and I cherished her. But for whatever reason, she chose me as her beneficiary. A few days after that, Sam messaged me. She was furious. She accused me of manipulating an old widow and taking advantage of her loneliness. She demanded that I hand over Valerie's things, saying that I had no right to keep anything that belonged to her mother. At first, I was angry. Where was all this outrage when Valerie was alive? She had decades to reach out, decades to reconnect. She never even answered Valerie's message when she tried to make amends. Now, all of a sudden, she cares? I thought about just blocking her and moving on. But then, I started second-guessing myself. Would Valerie have wanted me to give something to Sam? She knew exactly where Sam was. She could have included her in the will, even if just a little. But she didn't. That choice was intentional. But still, should I? The lawyer told me that everything is legally mine. Sam has no claim. But now, I'm stuck wondering if I should do something for her anyway. Would Valerie want me to hold on to everything and honor her wishes completely? Or would she want me to give Sam a piece of her? I keep going back and forth. What do I do? Not the jerk, because you don't know this other person, so it's not on you to fix it. But my goodness, your friend was an awful mother. Boss forced me to attend a useless meeting on no sleep, so I showed up in pajamas. Meetings. Arguably one of the biggest wastes of time, especially when you work nights and your entire schedule revolves around trying to get enough sleep during the day. This is a small tale of mismanagement, stubborn compliance, and one personal victory that made it all worth it. Many years ago, when I was still relatively new to working the night shift at a hotel, my manager decided to call an all-hands-on-deck meeting. Not just any meeting, a mandatory one. Big changes were coming. New policies, new procedures, a fresh new way of doing things. Attendance was required, no exceptions. Oh, and they were even providing lunch. I read the notice, realized none of the topics had anything to do with the night shift, and politely asked my manager if I could skip it. Maintenance procedures, housekeeping policies, front desk check-ins, these were all things I had zero involvement in as the night auditor. Nothing on the agenda applied to my shift, so why did I need to be there? Nope, my manager was not hearing it. He insisted it wouldn't be fair if everyone else had to show up and I got a pass, even though everyone else worked during the day and I worked alone at night. He didn't care that this was cutting straight into my sleep schedule. He didn't care that this was functionally useless to me. The only thing that mattered was that everyone had to be treated the same. Be there at noon or get written up. Fine then. If I was going to be dragged into a meeting in the middle of what was basically my 3 a.m., I was going to make sure everyone knew it. Now, this was before you could easily check store inventories online, so I had to make a few calls. After some searching, I finally found what I needed, 20 miles away. Worth it. I made the drive, got what I needed, went home, caught a short nap, and got up just in time for the meeting. When I walked in that conference room, I could feel all eyes on me. Plaid pajamas, dark blue bathrobe, hair still a mess from sleep, dark circles under my eyes that might have been made slightly worse with a little makeup for dramatic effect, and the piece de resistance? A brand new pair of fluffy bunny slippers that I had gone out of my way to buy for this exact occasion. My manager stopped mid-sentence and just stared, his brain visibly short-circuited as he tried to process what he was looking at. Meanwhile, the rest of the staff kept stealing glances at me, some stifling laughter, others just made wide eyes at the audacity of it all. Finally, the manager managed to find his voice and sputtered, "What are you wearing?" I shrugged. Well, for me, this is 3 a.m., so I figured I'd dress appropriately. Your presentation better be worth it. It was not worth it. Not a single topic discussed in that meeting had anything to do with my job. Everything was about daytime operations, cleaning schedules, front desk procedures, and other things that had zero relevance to me. I sat there, barely listening, just nodding along, while everyone else at least had the small consolation of getting a free lunch out of it. Except, I didn't even get that benefit. The lunch that was provided was some kind of fried rice and chicken casserole, which would have been nice if it didn't contain almost every single ingredient I couldn't eat. Onions, heavy cheese, jalapenos, and bell peppers, all packed into a meal so rich in fats that my recently removed gallbladder would have called it quits after one bite. So, no useful information, no sleep, no food. As the meeting wrapped up and everyone dug into their meals, I got up, walked straight to my manager, looked him in the eyes, well, as much as I could while being that sleep deprived, and I told him exactly what a colossal waste of my time this had been. Then I informed him that I would not be attending any more mandatory meetings. If there was something I needed to know, he could send me a memo. That was the last time I was ever asked to attend a meeting. Meetings happened, memos were sent, but my name was never on another list. I did attend my manager's going away party though. That one was actually worth it. Guy gets himself banned from 2 bars in 20 minutes over a beer. I work at a tiny tap house that sits right next to a super popular small business wing place. We don't have a kitchen, just beer and some prepackaged snacks, but we let customers bring in outside food, which means a lot of people grab wings next door and bring them over to have with their drinks. To make it even better, we set up a little discount system between the two places. If you show a beer receipt from our place at the wing spot, you get a discount on your food. If you show a wing receipt at our bar, you get $1 off your beer. It's a good setup and most people love it. The wing place does serve beer, but they only carry the basics: Bud, Coors Light, Corona, that kind of thing. We specialize in craft beer, so a lot of people prefer to come over to our side for something with a little more flavor. Because of how connected we are, some customers get confused and think we're just 2 parts of the same business. Totally understandable, but we have signs everywhere making it clear that alcohol can't be carried between the 2 places. We also explain it to new customers when they come in. One night, this guy comes in and says it's his first time at the tap house. He tells me that his friends are over at the wing place waiting on their food. Since I already know how this can go, I immediately explain the rules to him. His friends can bring their wings over here, they can all eat and drink together at our tables, but he cannot take one of our beers over there, and they can't bring any beer from next door into our place. Before I even finish talking, he starts scoffing and rolling his eyes. He tells me the kid at the counter next door said it was totally fine for him to take beer over. Yeah, sure. That's definitely not how it works. I tell him that whoever he talked to must have been mistaken and it's not allowed. He keeps grumbling about how it's a dumb rule, then gets even more irritated when I ask for his ID. After a bit of an attitude, he finally orders a beer. I pour it, he pays, and everything seems fine. He takes the pint, turns around, and walks straight for the door. I stop him. I remind him nicely but firmly that he can't take his beer next door. He has to drink it here or his friends need to come over with their food. Now he's mad. He starts ranting that he wouldn't even have bought a beer if he had known that, but he doesn't want any of the crappy beer next door. Sir, I literally told you this exact thing 5 minutes ago, twice. I apologize for any confusion, but I tell him again that those are the rules. He glares at me, and then, in the most dramatic fashion possible, starts aggressively chugging his beer like he's trying to prove a point. I have to fight back laughter because this dude is acting like I just personally ruined his night. He slams the empty glass down, gives me one last glare, and storms out. 10 minutes later, he comes back. I ask if he and his friends have decided to come over after all. Nope, he just wants to buy some beer to go. We sell some cans and 32-ounce crawlers for customers to take home, so I tell him no problem. Before I pour anything, I make sure to tell him again that he can't drink this next door. He throws his hands up. Yeah, I get it. All right then. I offer to keep the crawler in the cooler for him so it stays cold while he eats. He waves me off and says they're taking their food to go anyway. He closes his tab, takes his beer, and heads out. Now, at this point, I already have a feeling about this guy. I don't trust that he's actually taking his beer home, but whatever. I let him walk out because I figure I'll deal with it if it becomes an issue. I wait about 2 minutes, then ask a coworker to watch the bar for me. I walk next door. Sure enough, there he is at a table, trying to sneakily pour his crawler beer into a glass. It's like watching a raccoon get caught digging through the trash. I didn't even say anything to him. Instead, I go straight to the wing place's manager and I let them know what's going on. The manager walks over to the table and tells him and his friends they have to leave. That's when he tries to pull the dumbest move of all time. He looks right at the manager and says, "Oh, the bartender next door said I could bring it in." No, I did not. I shut that down immediately. Absolutely not. I told you multiple times that you can't bring beer over here. His face turns red and he starts sputtering like an old car trying to start. His friends, meanwhile, looked beyond embarrassed. One of them finally turns to him and goes, "Dude, what the heck? Why are you always an idiot?" The manager actually decides to let his friend stay since they didn't do anything wrong. So now the guy is standing there, fuming, realizing that not only is he getting kicked out, but his friends aren't even coming with him. I get it. I don't drink Bud or Coors either, but you had a perfectly good option. You could have come over, had your wings, watched the same exact game on TV, and had better beer at our place. Instead, you got yourself banned from both businesses. Was it even worth it? I let my nosy neighbor use my Wi-Fi. Now he's stalking me. So let's start from the beginning. I moved into my new apartment in July of last year. For the first couple of months, no one lived in the unit below me, and everything was quiet. Then a guy moved in, and from that moment on, my peaceful living situation completely changed. The first thing I noticed about him was the music. Not just music playing at a reasonable volume, but music so loud that it felt like it was coming from inside my own apartment. The bass shook my floors, the walls vibrated, and it was impossible to ignore it. I had never met him before, but after putting up with it for a while, I finally decided to ask him to keep it down, especially after 11 p.m., since that's around the time I go to bed. He didn't seem to take my request seriously. More often than not, the music would still be blasting well past midnight, and I'd be woken up at 3 a.m. by the pounding bass. The worst instance was when he kept it going until 4 in the morning, and I had to be up by 5:30 for a 12-hour shift. I was so exhausted that I had to miss 4 hours of work because I just couldn't function on that little sleep. Other than the noise issues, I had very little interaction with him. The occasional neighborly favor, like asking if I could grab a package off the porch so it wouldn't be stolen, that was about the extent of our relationship. That changed a few days ago when he asked me if he could use my Wi-Fi for a couple of days until he could pay for his own. I agreed to let him use it for free because, honestly, I get that times are tough. However, I have a deep-seated fear of house fires, so I unplug anything that isn't being used when I go to sleep, including my Wi-Fi router. I grew up in a family of firefighters, and that fear was instilled in me from a young age. It's just something I've always done without thinking about it. This morning, I woke up to a series of angry, disrespectful messages from my neighbor. He was furious that the Wi-Fi had been turned off overnight. At this point, I'm wondering if I was in the wrong. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk, but you definitely missed an opportunity. You had the perfect bargaining chip and just gave it away for free. You should have told him, "You can use my Wi-Fi if you keep your music down between 11 p.m. and 8 a.m. It is kind of odd that you unplug your Wi-Fi at night, but ultimately, it's your Wi-Fi. You can do whatever you want with it. I honestly don't even know why you're questioning this. Beggars can't be choosers. OP. You're not wrong. I had the perfect leverage and I completely wasted it. I guess it is weird that I unplugged my Wi-Fi, but it's just how I was raised. I wouldn't say I'm questioning whether I was in the wrong, but since this situation directly involves me, I wanted to get some outside opinions in case I was being biased. Technically not the jerk, but in reality, you're being a jerk to yourself. This guy treats you like a doormat, and instead of standing up for yourself, you keep letting him walk all over you. Seriously? Change the Wi-Fi password, send him a message that his behavior got his access revoked permanently, and start calling noise control, or your landlord or the police, every single time he blasts music past 10 p.m. You're an adult. Start acting like it. Update. To give some additional context, the apartment I live in is more of a duplex. There's only me upstairs and my downstairs neighbor. As for the noise issue, I've already called the police multiple times. The problem is, when they show up, he just turns the music off, and then the very next night, it's blasting again. I've realized that no matter how many complaints I make, nothing is going to change. At this point, I've accepted that some battles just aren't worth fighting. As for letting him use the Wi-Fi, I initially agreed because I didn't want to make things worse. I thought if I kept the peace, maybe it would help me avoid unnecessary conflict. But clearly, no matter what I do, the situation doesn't improve. So I might as well be a jerk back and do what's best for myself. Update 2. The Wi-Fi password and network name have been changed. Apparently, my neighbor did not take it well. While I was in class, he blew up my phone with calls and messages. Since I didn't respond, his final text was just the word, bet. I'm pretty sure he got his own Wi-Fi now because his music is blaring again. But here's the part that really concerns me. When I was outside with my dog and my girlfriend, I caught him recording us through his window. I don't know what his intentions are, but I have a bad feeling about it. I can't move just yet, so I'm going to start looking into what I can do legally to protect myself. Update 3. I contacted the company that manages my rental and explained everything that's been happening. Unfortunately, all they can do is issue him a warning. Beyond that, they said I have to call the police every time it happens. So that's where I am now, stuck with a nightmare neighbor, knowing that every time I report him, it's just a temporary fix. I don't know what he's planning with the recording thing, but I don't like it. I'll be looking into my options and taking extra precautions moving forward. So, if homeboy is blasting his music at 4 a.m., it means he's sleeping through the day. I just blast my own music during the day. If I'm not home and he had music cranked last night, he's getting 12 hours of Kids Bop until he wants to be civil. Kids Bop? Man, do they still make those things? I always preferred Now That's What I Call Music. If anybody remembers those CDs, you are my spirit animal. I got mistaken for a Best Buy employee, and this guy was not happy about it. Back when I was in college, I worked at a sporting goods store where we had to wear blue polos. It wasn't a bad job, but after a long shift dealing with customers who thought they knew everything about sports equipment, I was ready to be done with people for the day. After work, I stopped by Best Buy to pick up a new laptop for work. I was still wearing my work uniform, but I didn't think much of it. The store was pretty much empty, so I wandered around for a bit before finally tracking down an employee to help me. He was a friendly guy, and we started chatting while he looked up some laptop info for me. As we were talking, I noticed an older man standing behind us, tapping his foot and sighing dramatically. I ignored it because, honestly, I was exhausted and just wanted to get my laptop and go home. The Best Buy employee, being way more patient than I would have been, politely told the guy that he'd be with him in just a minute. That apparently wasn't good enough, because the man stormed off in a huff. I figured that was the end of it, so I went back to comparing laptops while the employee tried to upsell me on some fancy model I definitely couldn't afford. I was laughing about it because I already knew exactly which one fit my budget. We were sitting at the computer and he was checking on stock when suddenly the old man came back. This time he was furious. "Are either of you gonna get up off your butts and help me?" he yelled. I turned around, completely confused. He's helping me. I've been waiting." That just made him angrier. His face got redder and he was about to start another rant when I finally realized what was happening. I was still in my blue work shirt and my long hair had been covering the logo from my store. The shirts weren't even the same shade of blue, but I guess that didn't matter to him. So I moved my hair out of the way, pointed at my logo and said, "I don't work here. I'm just trying to buy a laptop for school." In this guy's defense, I could see the exact moment it clicked for him. His face went from furious to mortified in about 2 seconds. He mumbled a quick apology and walked away so fast it was like he was trying to disappear. I have no idea if he ever got the help he needed, but I got my laptop and a funny story out of it. He was almost as furious as I become when our friends forget to barbecue that like button. Barbecue for the win. Am I wrong for not giving my cheating wife another chance? I'm 39 male, and my wife, who's 33, we've been together for 13 years. She recently went away on a girls' trip. I was not worried at all. I've never had a reason to distrust her. She's never done anything to give me a cause for concern, and it's not like she was even going abroad. She was just going to a resort half an hour away, for goodness sake. She went with her sister and a few other girls. She called me up this morning, and I didn't expect anything other than her checking in. She's only been away one night of a 3-night trip. When I answered, she was crying and incoherent. When I finally calmed her down, she told me that she had hooked up with someone there the night before. Supposedly, she met this guy who she approached, they flirted a little and danced together, and she thought that was as far as it would go. But he supposedly just charmed her into a kiss, which turned into making out, which turned to her asking him to walk her back to her hotel, which turned into them hooking up. The guy was supposedly 10 years younger than her, and she said that she lied and told him she was going through a divorce. She says she doesn't know what came over her, and she just wanted to see if she still had it, but got carried away. 14 years, married for 10, and we have a 7-year-old daughter. I want to leave her. She's begging me not to, offering marriage counseling, never going out again, never drinking again, etc. I've always been a one-chance sort of guy. I just told her to go buzz off, and I've been ignoring her since about 10 a.m. Now her friends and sister are calling me too. They apparently had no idea she'd gone home with him. They saw them talking but thought nothing of it. I just want them all to leave me alone. I told my mom about it, and she said I should think of my family, and that my wife seems genuinely remorseful and didn't try and hide anything, and she came clean straight away. That it's not like she had an affair, and that as bad as it is, this is the best case scenario. After that conversation, I feel like I'm insane. Am I wrong for not even considering forgiving her? Update. So my wife came home tonight after giving me the day to cool off. I asked to see the guy. I don't know why, maybe I'm a sucker for punishment. And of course, he looks like a superhero, so that's great. For the record, my wife is beautiful, like perfect teeth, works out regularly, etc. I'm not ugly, but I'm just a typical English guy. I'm not overweight, but could probably lose a few pounds, bit of a dad bod, etc. Still have a full head of hair, which is nice. I always felt so lucky to be with her. She was an amazing partner, an amazing mother, funny, intelligent, etc. I asked her to lay out what happened next to me in more detail. I wanted to catch any lies or changes in the story and test her consistency. She basically says that she was at the bar and the guy was stood next to her. They glanced at each other and she said, "Where did you come from?" to him. He asked what she meant, and she said he was the first handsome man she'd seen there. And that's how the conversation got started. As for her telling him she was divorcing, that happened when he glanced down, noticed her ring, and asked her about it. Apparently, once she said that, he went on to say, "Not like I care either way." What a gentleman. I asked her why she felt the need to see if she still had it, and she says that ever since she hit 30, she's been self-conscious of her aging. That when she spots a new wrinkle or something, it drives her to tears. She said that chatting to the guy made her feel young again, and she latched onto that. Also, apparently, the guy was there with a girl who my wife said looked like a younger version of herself, and the guy pointed her out to my wife and said, "That girl over there watching us has a crush on me," and laughed about it. After he had been talking to my wife for like 30 minutes, that girl had enough, walked over and kicked the table, spilling the guy's drink and then storming off. She says that the guy was picking her over the younger woman, and that drove her ego crazy, and that was when she decided to kiss him. I asked her why she even told me, and she said that when she woke up, she saw I had sent her a selfie of me and our daughter eating pizza, and it sent her into a nervous breakdown. That she was wailing and sobbing so loud, it woke up her sister, and that's when she confessed. Her sister told her she was insane for what she did, and wasn't very comforting, and then left the room mad at her, which made it worse, and that's when she called me. I have asked her to leave the house for a few days, and she's staying at her mother's house while I decide what I want to do. She begged me not to make her leave, but she did when I said it was the least she could do after blowing up our entire lives over wrinkles making her sad. As for my mother, she still thinks I should forgive her. For context, my dad passed about a year ago, and my wife really has been a rock for my mom. I cannot see her as much as I would like to due to my work, but my wife is a self-employed lash/nail tech and has a lot of free time, which she uses to spend with my mom to keep her company, do her hair, and have girly days to try and make sure she doesn't get lonely. Like I said, she was a perfect partner. No, I don't think my mom is a cheater or whatever, and she is very angry at my wife, but she loves her, and she just wants everything to be okay. My daughter has no idea what's happening. She was already asleep when my wife came home and went again. She will just think that Mummy is still on holiday. I still have no idea what I'm going to do. Honestly, I'm still reeling, but that's basically everything. You are not wrong. If all it took were a couple drinks and a charming guy to get her to throw away her relationship and her family, it ain't worth it. Karen expects me to hide my scar because she doesn't want to see it. I, 24 female, had a cancer scare a few years back and I had a biopsy done on my upper leg. The scar has now faded, but it is still fairly noticeable and it's about 7 centimeters long. Thankfully, it was only a scare and nothing came of it. For a while, I was insecure about it and I stopped wearing skirts or leggings where you could see the outline of the scar. But now that I've accepted it's going to be there, I started to wear whatever I want to, and I realized that nobody even cares about it apart from the odd question that I get. We went to the beach yesterday as a friend group and I wore a swimsuit. I was excited to get a tan and my friend Anna brought her other friend Dana, who's 25. I've met her before, but I don't know her very well. However, I do know that she started a fundraiser for her mom who is fighting cancer right now. Dana's family situation is quite difficult as her father passed away recently and her mom has stage 4 and Dana is juggling a lot. I arrived earlier than Anna and Dana, so I was already in my swimsuit when they joined us. Dana was nice to me and asked about my new job. Then Anna went to say hi to the others and Dana mentioned my scar and she recognized it was a biopsy. She asked if I could wear a cover-up as it was triggering to her and insensitive of me as I know her mom is going through it right now. I said no, I'm here to get a tan and the cover-up will ruin that, and Dana didn't say anything else but didn't talk to me for the rest of the day. Today, Anna texted me telling me that Dana told her what happened, and while she agrees Dana's comment was weird, I should have given her a free pass as she's not in the best place mentally right now. I said it was really weird and no I wouldn't. I genuinely don't think I'm in the wrong and I think that she's being really weird about the situation. Obviously, if I am in the wrong, I will apologize. Not the jerk at all. While I feel for her and what she's going through, it's absolutely not okay to ask anyone to cover a scar. If someone has a trigger, it's their responsibility to handle it, not everyone else's to change for them. You're at the beach. It's completely acceptable that you wear your swimsuit. And good for you for not letting your scar deter you from what you want to do. Don't stop now. We've got hours of the best stories waiting for you. Tap here and keep watching. And hey, if you love these, don't forget to subscribe.